Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. This is episode 49, and today we're talking about 0.92 again. So as usual, we've got Phil joining us. Hey, Phil.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thanks. And we've got a special guest on today, as usual, but today is actually really special. We've got Pascal on. Hey, Pascal, how are you?
Hi, guys. Fine, thanks.
This episode is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabu. Easily and securely access your local Home Assistant instance remotely for a small monthly fee that also supports the Home Assistant project. Configuration is via the user interface, so no fiddling with router settings, SSL certificates, or YAML.
So if for those that aren't aware, Pascal's employee number one of Nabu. So you're dedicated to working full time on Home Assistant.
Yes, it's my dream job. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I have no time to fix bugs and
there you go.
Stuff.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and so you also were the mastermind behind the original HAS.io that was the all-in-one product that gets shipped out. So every time there's a new release for HAS.io with regards to the latest Home Assistant release, that's all this guy. So it's going to be awesome to chat to you a bit later on too.
That's awesome. 0.92's here. We're a week late. Last time we talked about kind of some of the stuff that's going to be happening. And so this week we're going to give a little more detail on that release. With it being delayed a week, it's kind of throwing our podcast schedule out slightly. So we don't exactly know how this is going to work out. But right now we're keeping our podcast release schedule the same 2 weeks. And I think we're going to try and figure out between Phil and myself based on what's happening, what makes most sense. And we'll, if needed, we'll adjust accordingly.
Yeah, because I think last week we touched on that there is the discussions in the Home Assistant repos about a potential change to the release cycle. And actually, Pascal was the one that sort of kicked that off. So, Pascal, for those that aren't aware, Home Assistant has a release basically at the moment, basically every week. There's a beta in 1 week, and the following week, a proper release, that everyone gets on the main channel. So from your point of view, because you're the one that has, because you being the only employee at Nabu, apart from Paulus, that you two are the only working full-time on Home Assistant, why do you see a need to change the release cycle?
Well, so one point is we need more time for make new features or complex features. So we go into direction to version 1. And for that, we need bigger core change, and they need to be tested better. So a week is very small. So you merge a PR, 2 days later you see, oh no, it needs to be better, and and you fixed that, and it's already in the beta. So you need to fix also the beta, and that's not very quality management. So it's very bad for the quality. And the other point is it's a lot of work. So it's a half day of work to prepare a new release. After that, you need to manage with other developers, organize some other stuff, and prepare the blog post, whatever. And it's all time so stupid work every week, and it needs
gets
time.
Repetitive, I'm sure. Yeah. Yep.
So we have some automation, and that works not bad, but sometimes they fail. So we need to look. This PR is tagged for bug fix release, but the source code it's not able to merge it back into older version, and it's not very funny work.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I guess at the moment there's a lot of discussions going on, and we'll have to see where all the chips land basically on the way forward. I think there's a lot of people saying that we should be able to go faster. There's some people saying, well, if we go slower, it might take longer for bug fixes to come out. So I know it's a very heated discussion at the moment within the core devs at Home Assistant. So we won't weigh into it too much, but it's certainly interesting times, especially, we've all got to remember that the end goal is to get something stable out there for all users and hopefully less time for you.
Yeah, it's mostly the users, or the most feedback was that a longer release circle will be better. And I think also that 2 weeks for development is a lot of less rush for us. So we don't need rush up to bring new features into next release or fix some things. Well, our to-do list is very big. So we work sometimes on 2-3 different features on the same time, and swip around.
Yeah. Hopefully that bit of focus will help you guys, like from a stability perspective too, right? It's just more focus you can put into one piece of the code rather than being split brain running around, half working on this, half working on that kind of thing, right? So
it's all the release. It's amazing. It's so many developers they put code into the next release, but that need all be organized, and that need also time, and that is mostly forgotten by users.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're eagerly awaiting where this decision changes, because right now, for as long as I can remember, Home Assistant has always been a 2-week release cycle. So it'll be interesting to see how that all changes.
Yeah, the beta is very new. Before we didn't have a beta, but it was not the idea that we make a weekly release circle with beta stable. Yeah, it's growing in that direction, but it's wrong. So we need to change it and make it better.
That's fair enough.
Fair, yeah.
All right. Something cool that came out on Reddit the past couple of weeks. There was some discussions around automating tracking parcels. So originally, Jim Onesie on Reddit posted an example using a command line sensor to scrape an email from Amazon, which would then display a custom Lovelace card to say, these are the packages that are expected. Then Audio Dev on Reddit took it one step further and created a sensor that I believe is powered by Node-RED that can also be customized to scrape for different packages from not only Amazon, but maybe DHL or any of the like. So there's some really cool stuff. We'll leave links in the show notes to the Reddit discussions if you want to take a look. But it is interesting to see how some smart people out there are using existing components, the command line sensor, email scrapers, and all that to go in and tell Home Assistant some more information just based on emails that land in your inbox. So I thought that was a really cool use case for Home Assistant.
Yeah, that is pretty neat.
I actually saw one of the comments was that I think it was the one the Jim Onesie created, was that he took it one step further, that if it is expected to rain more than 90% outside and you've got a package delivered today, you can actually have Home Assistant do something about it. So maybe send you an alert, say, hey, it's going to rain today and you've got a package, maybe get home early or something like that.
Oh, that's kind of neat. Yeah, that's pretty smart.
Yeah, I thought that was really smart.
Yeah, that way you don't have soggy package.
Exactly.
So something else really cool that came the last couple of weeks, Ian Richardson has made some pretty cool custom Lovelace cards. So if if you don't know what to put on your Lovelace UI, check these out. We'll leave a link for those in the show notes. So there's an RSS feed card, a Roku card, a tracked plugin card, and an aftership card. So all of these look really interesting. So that's thanks for putting that out there. These are really, really cool little innovations.
Yeah. All right, so we're just going to touch on 0.92. I know we touched on it in the last episode, but there are some important breaking changes because this was such a big release. There were many breaking changes, and I think the big one that's come out of this one is the Google Translate platform has been renamed. So if you're using I think it's Google Text-to-Speech or one of those translation services, it's actually been renamed, and when you upgrade to 0.92, Home Assistant will attempt to go into your YAML files, your configuration YAML files, and update the configuration for you. So it's just going to do a find replace. It may not work if you're using include files or packages. So just watch out for that. And also, if you then need to downgrade from 0.92 back to 0.91, for example, Home Assistant won't rename those, won't undo those changes to your config files. So do watch out for that one.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Google Assistant now needs a PIN before controlling doors and locks and that kind of things. The allow unlock option has been removed for cloud as well as manual Google Assistant installs. And this was actually, interestingly, came from Google, it sounds like.
Yeah, it looks like Google requested that one, so got the priority straight in. I want to know, because I'm not a Google Home user, I wonder how accurate the saying a PIN would be to Google, because I sometimes, to my Amazon Echo say, turn off the bedroom lights, and it doesn't understand me. Like, imagine, saying, unlock the front door. It goes, okay, what's the PIN? And then you say the PIN and it doesn't recognize it. Like, you're just going to get stuck in a loop there.
Yeah.
But maybe someone that, don't have Google Home, so hopefully, maybe it just takes, if it sounds like it, I will accept that. But yeah, that's interesting.
It's very secure. After you say it, the PIN, every day hear you know it.
Well, that's it, right? I mean, it depends if you say it loud enough too. I mean, I'm sure your neighbors or whoever are always like, why is this guy constantly yelling 1999 every day, right?
Voice assistant are very amazing at the home, but outside it's very annoying. Everyone can hear you what you say to assistant, so it's not very funny.
Yeah.
But at the home it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Logi Circle integration has changed its API. So if you're using the Logi Circle integration, you'll now need to authenticate with the new API, which Home Assistant is using. Previously, Home Assistant was using a private API, and with 0.92, this is now using a more stable and official public API. So hopefully that means there's less chance of it going away in the future. So along with this update, some services from Logi Circle have been removed from the camera component, and you must now call them from the Logi Circle component. So this is more making sure consistency across Home Assistant so that, Logi Circle specific services remain in their platform and don't complicate the camera platform too much.
Right, which makes sense because they may be doing things that are out of that. I don't want to use the word circle, ironically, but which is out of that. Yeah, exactly. Which is out of that circle, but at the same time, you still want to have those those features in there, right? So I get that one.
I think it's a very cool movement that the manufacturer open his API and make public APIs that we can attach.
Yes,
that's very nice.
Yeah, and that's been something we've actually talked about on the show before, around January, when a lot of stuff was being shut down and all that stuff. Especially there was that big fiasco where they shut down their their unofficial API for the Harmony remotes. Yeah. Right, so it's good to see a company like that doing, opening up their APIs, like you said. So the media player component is now a little more strict. So you may find some issues. So essentially what happens is when you're making a call to a media player service, like turn on, turn off, so on and so forth, it'll actually be checked to see if the player supports those features. So as an example, if you do media player.turnoff on a Sonos speaker, which can't actually turn off, that won't work, right? So this may result in some stuff breaking. Hopefully not, but make sure you test them after that you upgrade.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess maybe if someone's using a media player turn off on a Sonos speaker, expecting it to just stop playing, it may, with a 0.92 update, that may not actually be the case anymore. So it's not really. I guess it's going to be a breaking change for some people. It's going to be, but it's sort of. I guess when you think about it, yeah, okay, I can't really turn off a Sonos speaker, so I shouldn't, try and turn it off. I should actually just call the stop service instead.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that I don't know how good of an example that is in the sense that I don't know if it just won't work or if it'll actually spit out an error kind of thing, right?
I believe it used. I don't believe it'll spit out an error or anything. It's now just going to be completely silent, so you won't even know. Yeah,
it's very hard to find out that breaking change that you are affected.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so Pascal, this is the time of the episode where we get to grill you, and I think first of all we should start with, because you are the creator of Hass.io, what I assume you're running Hassio, unless you're like Frank, who just decided to create Hassio add-ons without ever using Home Assistant. As the creator of Hassio, what hardware are you personally using to run Hassio with?
That's funny. I use a very old Raspberry P3 for my home. So I'm porting HassOS to many platforms, and I have a lot of hardware behind me. But for me personally, I use an old RP3.
Well, so that's interesting because another follow-up question I thought of was that we asked Paulus a couple of episodes ago when we had some Twitter questions, will Home Assistant ever outgrow the Raspberry Pi? Do you ever feel that HassOS and Hassio will outgrow the Raspberry Pi with, all the add-ons that are coming out at the moment?
Yeah, it's some add-ons need a lot of resource, and if you have a lot add-on installed, and they all access to SD cards, and it's slow.
Yeah.
So if you install and start the add-on, that take time, and if you look to to the Intel NUC, that is very fast. You can press start and the add-on is running, and on a Raspberry you need time. But if all is running, it runs. So I have 3 floors, and I have a lot of components and hardware, and all is automated in my home. I have no wall mount buttons. All is working with presence detection, and they go really fast, also with a Raspberry Pi 3. So the booting time is maybe bad, but I never restart the device often. So
that's fair.
But that's the human. He need all time faster. So smartphone need go faster and faster, more memory. But the reality, you don't need so much resource.
Yeah, fair enough. So on a sort of related note, ideally, what kind of hardware would you want to be running? Like, what hardware do you recommend? Let's say I'm a new Hassio user. What should I go out and get?
Yeah, maybe oversized, but I like the Intel NUC.
Yeah,
because they have a hard disk and not a SD card, and that make it a lot faster.
Yeah, it makes it a lot faster, and from a longevity perspective too, I think.
Yeah,
because there's less writes to the disk and so on. Or sorry, not less writes to the disk. Sorry. The hard disk can take more writes, right? Or the hard drive can take more writes. So, as opposed to an SD card. So
okay, the operating system HassOS is embedded Linux, and we optimize it that the main part of the system is read-only. So we minimize the write access to SD card. What is possible, but we have no access to the add-ons, and we cannot control how many writes they will be executed to SD card.
Yeah, exactly. And logging and all that. If you do it on board, right? If you don't have if you don't ship your logs off to something else, then, again, these are hits to the card, right?
But I think for a start and for a small home and for beginning, a Raspberry Pi 3 is enough. So start. And I work on porting for Rock 64 Pro, and that's a very cool ARM hardware.
Yeah,
really fast, and maybe my favorite for the next OS release.
Oh, interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, because we see all the time, you get like a whole bunch of random hardware that people either donate to you or you pick up somewhere and you just try and get HassOS running on it. So it's really cool, like the way you're trying to get so many different systems and hardware systems out there working with HassOS.
Yeah, that thing, it's a big thanks to Buildroot, because they makes very easy to porting the operating system to different hardware. It's times, but it's normally very simple.
So in the 0.92 release, we had the Ingress feature launched, which basically allows Hassio add-ons to be able to access remotely from the Home Assistant cloud Is that available now with the release of 0.92? Is that available for all Hass.io add-ons, or is it still a few add-ons here and there that aren't supported?
It's possible or available for all add-ons, but the developer need to integrate it into add-on.
Right.
So it's not it's not on the start work.
Yeah, so basically an add-on developer will need to update the add-on to support the ingress feature.
Yeah, and I think it's not possible or make not sense for all add-ons to integrate that. So in case of Plex, Plex is local only, a very complex web UI, and yeah, that will be too hard to implement or make no sense. And yeah, it's some requirements to the web interface that it need that need exist. Otherwise, it's not possible to porting that to Ingress. But it's amazing. Sense. Yeah. Also the Ingress is not is not taken for the Nabucasa cloud. It's a nice additional that it works in that way, but we solve a big or face up a big problem the user have with port management. So all time you give a new port, you need to add the SSL certificate and you need to handle that all. And you need to open the editor. When if you have on that on the panel, you need to add that to panel. And for a normal user, it's very complicated. And the idea with Ingress is that you can install the add-on and can say, I want to see that on the menu bar, and all is set up. So it's all as single sign-on. It's very easy to use, and that was the reason for Ingress. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. Right. And so then as a benefit, like a side benefit to that feature came along, cloud access to add-ons. So that's really cool.
It's also for the port forwarding. So if you use port forwarding, you can use, you profit also from this new feature.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is very cool.
And I create Hass.io because all-time friends or family come to me at home and say, oh, that's cool, I want that, can you install that on my home? And my answer was all time, no. Sorry, but I have no time to manage additional Raspberry to update your home. That's too difficult. And I noticed that is a burden of Home Assistant that is not, it's not possible to use that for everyone. And so the idea come up for Hass.io to make an all-in-one system that should be very user-friendly.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
But everything needs to grow up. So all the features, they will be never released. If we release all that features, they will come up soon. At the same time, we release Hass.io.
Yeah, fair enough. And it's a right step forward too, right? And I mean, we've talked about it with Paulus quite a few times about simplification and all that stuff. So I think it's a great leap forward.
Yeah.
So you've released Ingress now, which is arguably a pretty big feature in Hass.io. What else are you planning for Hass.io? Like, what are the future plans for the platform?
Yeah, I think after Ingress, it's hard to top that feature. I think next changes are all under the hood and must not see by users. So I will I work on a feature for a customized container. So the user is able to install or add additional libraries to the Home Assistant container.
Okay.
For customer components. And Home Assistant make also the movement to offload the components external. So that will be very interesting for a system like Docker. At the moment, we deliver one image with all components. And we work on a system, or we discover what we need to for that we can ship that out without all components, and user are able to install that later on real time. So that's very difficult. It sounds very easy, but in the background, it's really difficult.
No, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the points behind Docker is that it is stateless. You basically have your config that remains consistent among when a container dies or whatever, or you need to restart it, and then it can bring up the same config. But everything that the core system behind it it doesn't matter what version it is, it's just fresh. And so if you're moving away from components being shipped as part of that base image, you're sort of becoming an anti-pattern in Docker, where you're sort of telling it, here's the features that I want you to update on the fly. So it does make sense that this is going to be a pretty big change, especially because HasOS and HasIO are based on Docker. So you're going to need to somehow find a place that you can write all these components or plugins and keep them up to date and be able to then have them work with Docker.
Yeah. We Resident changed something so that the Home Assistant container is not stateless anymore. Before, all time you reboot the Home Assistant, you create a new container and reset everything that you modified, maybe local. And now, after first start, you create a stateful container, and you are able to change some things, and you can reboot, and they will remember all changes. And there is a new command that you can rebuild the container. And if you don't call this rebuild command, the container hold all states of the.
Interesting.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't realize you guys made that change.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Some things are very hidden, or not hidden in the release notes, but yeah.
Yeah, that requires reading the whole release notes, though, Pascal. That's the problem.
I think also currently we have a protection system. So if a Home Assistant update fails, he automatically roll back to the last working Home Assistant version.
Okay.
Because most of HasIO installation are headless.
Yeah.
And if the system will break, the user have a problem or need a lot of work to make it working again.
Yeah, they'll have no UI to log back into and recover from.
Exactly. But
go grab a monitor and do all that.
Yeah.
Right?
The problem is if you make a rollback, we log that, but we don't log why we roll back. And so it's very hard for the user to find out, it's a breaking change.
Right.
Make the rollback. And we're working also on a new feature that we report the logs of a wrong start back to user. To UI, a user interface that he can see, I need to change this config and try again the update.
Right, so now a user can be able to see, all right, I just hit the upgrade button, but it didn't upgrade. It's been 20 minutes. Why am I still back in the old version? Now they'll get an error to say, hey, you would try to upgrade, but you've got a breaking change here that you need to address, and then try again.
Exactly, yeah. HasIO is cool, but it needs to be more user-friendly, like Home Assistant, and that it will be the goal of this year to make all things more user-friendly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we've seen that a lot with the push to, the config UI, entity registries, or becoming in the UI now. We're trying to move away from YAML where possible, just to make things a bit more user-friendly, so you don't need to know how to touch code if you don't want to. Obviously, it's not there completely yet, but we can clearly see that's the direction we're heading in.
Yeah, we're working, on my task list is also a better hardware detection. So you can put in a C-Wave stick and he detect, I need to install this add-on, and a pop-up, please install this. Maybe for Dresden or Homatics, that is a USB stick, and you put it in and it install the add-on. And I will automate that process. The whole hardware handling is, that's a problem of Docker, but it's a bit ugly, and I need to work on it to make a better feeling with hardware handlings. So yeah, that's some bugs around. They need to fix it. But yeah, it's all time sounds simple, but in the background it's a lot of changes and discovering.
It's funny because I'm just thinking this is like we've gotten to the state where I mean some of these internally it is very complicated, right? And a lot of this came from you just not wanting to install other people's Raspberry Pis for them with Home Assistant and stuff, right? And it's just it's cool where we're going with this, right? I mean, I think that's definitely something exciting, right? Like where you plug it in, it just kind of picks it up on its own and starts going, "Hey, do you want to install this?" Yes, or whatever that workflow looks like, right? And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think Raspberry Pi is very lovely by user, but currently I see the movement to the virtual appliance. So we have a big growth with virtual appliance. I think they can replace Raspberry Pi in maybe in a year.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't have thought that just because again a Raspberry Pi is just so accessible, right? Or Raspberry Pi like devices, right? So that's cool.
I think a lot of users have Unraid or other NAS system. They can now have a full virtualized environment, and it's very simple to install HasOS with Has.io on such device.
Yeah,
fair enough.
So one thing we see regularly with the Has.io is slightly delayed from seeing the latest Home Assistant releases, because obviously there's additional work that you have to do, like customize containers and all that. Are there any plans on ways that this can be improved or automated so that Has.io releases come out faster or closer to when like the other Home Assistant releases come out?
We work on a new build system, but I need to say first, it was a hard work that he built so fast. So, it looks like it's not very fast. So 4 hours, it's low. But the first version was 12 hours or 80 hours.
Right. Yeah.
And it needs a lot of time to cross compile all the components. And need a lot of resource, and we working on a caching system that we small down to increase the build time. And now we are on 4 hours for a build. But the problem is we build all times every component, and that is not very great. And Frank has the idea that we change the build system to use wheels. So the idea is that we create our own wheels repository.
Yeah.
And on every change or every push to Home Assistant, we build in the background every wheel new, or is a library have changed. We look at this library have changed, and we compile this library and push up in our repository. And on the release, we have already all compiled, so we need only install the wheel, and that takes maybe 10 minutes.
Right. So instead of doing the whole platform every time, it's just smaller components and then integrate those smaller components in.
Exactly.
Essentially.
But we don't build all the components at one time on the release, so we make that over the whole development cycle.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of cool.
And maybe that could be also the key for split out the components from Home Assistant, because we have all pre-compiled. And if we build the Home Assistant container, we can load that to into container pre-compiled, and need only unzip that, and it's ready.
Right.
Because
nice.
If you build some libraries, it can take an hour on a Raspberry Pi. So if you need wait 2-3 hours every update to come up with Home Assistant, that is too long. And with build system, they compile or hot standby all components. It's go very fast. So I think in 2-3 release, it could be that Has.io will be real time.
Very cool.
Oh, that'll be exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, that will be great. So we automate everything in the background. Every build, add-ons, and all on is now full automated with Azure pipes. So if I change everything in a repository, they build the Docker container and push that up. And the next project is to do the same with a Home Assistant container and with the pre-compiling of components. And that make it possible that we can build all with Azure.
Oh, wow,
Very cool.
okay.
Yeah.
So Azure offer every open source project to use 10 very fast build machines. And yes, we use now this build machines to build our Has.io release.
Wow, very cool. I didn't actually realize they had that.
Yeah, well, good that they're giving back to open source community, and I guess they do own GitHub now.
Yeah.
Well, Microsoft.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
GitHub is also on the hand of Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a problem that release takes so long, but I think we see a light on the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, nice. Well, I mean, just switching gears a little bit, I mean, I'd love to know a little bit about your setup, right? So, like, how long have you been using Home Assistant?
3.5 years.
Wow.
To the day,
That's
3.5 years.
Yeah. And how about home automation as a whole? Like, is it, did you start with Home Assistant or?
Yeah, I start 4-5 years with OpenApp.
Okay.
Yep.
After my first children was born.
Yeah.
So the room was very cold, and I tried to automate the head setup.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of my home automation history.
That's funny. It's funny. Everybody has always got this like one little trigger, right? For you, it's your kids were born and the room's too cold. So now it's and yeah, it's funny always hearing kind of how people get into it, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so I can see so we've got a video feed while we're recording. I can see in the background, it looks like you've got a Philips Hue bloom or a light strip up in the corner there. What sort of smart home components or technologies are you using apart from like Philips Hue? I'm guessing you've got Z-Wave or anything like that.
I use a lot different platforms. So I have Sonos, Netatmo, Homatics, mostly Homatics or Homatic IP.
Yep.
Okay.
I have Zigbee decons. That's from Dress Electronics, and over that I control my IKEA lights and Hue lights. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
that in the background is a Hue bulb.
Very cool.
I have also Z-Wave, some IP cams, Naki smart locks, and ESP Home a bit.
Wow, that's must be
and
fun.
you find time for HasOS and Has.io.
The problem is I need found time for my home.
I know.
I working all time on Home Assistant, but I need take need look into my calendar and show a time frame, so update my home. And
you got to book it in beforehand, right?
I have a note list. So if I see cool new features for a Home Assistant, I take it to the list, and I hope I find time to implement that to my home.
That's funny. See, those are the pros of working with Home Assistant daily, right?
Yeah.
You get that live feed of what's going on.
You have no time for your own home.
That's right. How about like from a presence detection perspective and stuff? How are you utilizing presence detection?
I use a component that I have self-written, and I read from my UPC modem. I read all available devices or local devices, and I use OwnTrack on smartphone.
Okay. And then do you have those in any kind of automations that you're, based on, hey, Pascal's home, do this kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I use the Telegram integration and send some Telegram to my phone, and automatically close all doors and look if all windows are closed and so on. Otherwise, he make a note to me, hey, go back home, your window is open.
That's cool.
That's awesome. So I guess, that would lead you to, what would be your favorite automation that you set up with Home Assistant?
The light setup. So because children can't never take light off, and all lights are full automated with presence detection. So I have no wall-mounted panel buttons or so. All is automated. And if I take the children in the bed, I can say, Alexa, change the setting for the children in the bed, and the light setting is changed.
That's cool.
That's cool. So when you say you've got the lights automated, do you have motion sensors as well? So when you walk into a room, the lights turn on automatically?
I use presence detection. That's like motion detection, but it's the motion detection or a motion sensor need a real motion to trigger.
Yeah.
And the presence detection, if I write on a tastature, that this kind of movement is enough to detect it.
Oh, right. Yes.
That's a presence detection. So it works like a motion detection, but it trigger every small motion. So I can make only so and he detect a change.
Right. Yeah, presence sensors. Yeah. Because I think they use a combination of motion and heat or something like that, right? As well.
Yeah.
To check if somebody's in the room. I know I was looking into. At one point, I actually wanted to build my own, and then I was like, I'm not smart enough for this, so I stopped.
But the biggest problem, so you are on toilet, WC, and the motion detection. So you look on your smartphone, and 2 minutes later, you have no lights. And detection, they detect that you are in the room. So you can sleep in the room, and he don't make the light off.
Yeah. Now that is cool, because I only have motion sensors, which are like Z-Wave motion sensors. So this would solve a lot of my problems that I have to sort of build into. So what sort of, so these presence detections that you have, are they using a particular protocol like Zigbee or Z-Wave or MQTT?
That is Tomatic IP. That is
okay.
Yeah,
nice.
I think that's not available in USA or it's.
Of course it's not.
I think it's only German and Switzerland, Austria. But
interesting.
They works with 800 megahertz.
Okay, so sort of similar to an RF protocol, I would say. About that, maybe not RF, but
it's like RF, but it's with feedback. So the most cheap senders are sent only one direction, and this protocol are in both directions. So he sent a presence detection to the hub or to my USB sticks, and the USB sticks need quit that he received the signal or he sent it again.
Oh, cool! So it can acknowledge the essentially a receipt of receiving it. Interesting. That's cool. Yeah, we use at my office all our lights are PoE driven, and even in every set of lights they have a presence detector in it as well. So that the lights don't turn off if you're in a specific meeting room or something. Because we do a lot of telepresence calls and stuff, right? So it looks really bad when you're on a call and all of a sudden all your lights turn off. So and you see people scrambling around like waving frantically, right, to turn on the lights. So to prevent that, we actually use the same in our offices.
Oh, well, that's really cool. I'll have to add that to my shopping list now. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, presence detection makes you more happy as motion detection.
Yeah, that would solve a lot of my issues.
Yeah. So how do you drive Home Assistant? Do you use voice a lot, or do you use the UI? I know you mentioned you have a couple of touch panels. What's the...
Yeah, I love my Alexa. I have on every floor a Alexa.
Yeah.
To make it quiet. So.
Don't worry, everybody's echo just went off right there. So
yeah, exactly. You need make a peep sound.
That's right.
And and on the middle floor, I have a big wall mount tablet.
Okay.
Which you're using Lovelace, I'm assuming?
Yeah. It's very it's very poor. I had no time to make a nice, lovely interface. So
that's funny.
The demo looks better from Home Assistant as my own setup. It is my task list to make to draw all my home and set the lights, and that's a very cool feature. But I have no time to draw my home on the computer.
Yeah. So is it just yourself, or do you have people living with you, and do they interact with this as well, and how do they interact if there are people?
Yeah. So my wife is at home, and they use it mostly over smartphone.
Okay.
They don't like Alexa. I don't know why, but my children are two. The oldest children is 5 years old, and it's too young to use.
Yeah.
To use the web interface, but he used Alexa.
That's funny. Yeah, that's not surprising at all.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It looks very nice. So all stay around Alexa and try to speak with Alexa.
That's funny.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Pascal. We appreciate it.
See you next time.
Yeah, thanks, me too.
Cheers.
Bye.
If you want to share your Home Assistant journey or come on as a guest, reach out to us at feedback@hasspodcast.io. That's HASS podcast.io.
The Home Assistant podcast is hosted by Phil Hawthorne and myself, Rohan Karamandi. For links to topics that we discussed today, check out our show notes on hasspodcast.io.